Hello and welcome to our first challenge on Forza Motorsport 5, and we start kind of with the McLaren P1. Now this is quite possibly the greatest hypercar that exists in the world at the moment. I believe this utterly annihilated the lap record around the Nürburgring. However, cars like this, while they are all very exciting, they do cost an awful lot of money. I have only got this one as I am a high enough level on the Forza website rewards scheme thing that I got gifted one of these cars. If you aren't, it's going to take a while for you to earn the money to actually buy one of these. They're over $1 million, I believe, or credits, or whatever the hell the thing's called. It's going to cost you a hell of a lot of money to buy one of these incredibly fast cars. However, I don't think you need to spend too much money to have fun, to have a good race car. Sure, it's not going to beat the McLaren P1. However, I think for 40,000 credits, you can have a rather competent C-Class car. Now, as I said before, I like racing the lower PI cars, and C-Class in Forza 5 is roughly equivalent to B-Class in Forza 4. We're going to start with the Focus ST. This is a special edition. If you have the Day 1 edition of Forza 5, then you have access to this car. It is a pre-modified one, so it is modified to C-Class 500 PI. This car costs 35,000 credits, which, considering the car and the modifications, is really rather good value for money. So we're going to use this as a bit of a benchmark to compare sort of the rest of the cars too. Now, the initial plan for this was to take these cars online and see how they fared in online lobbies. However, I can't save the replays online. Also, there's not. I keep getting put in games with like only 2 other people, so it doesn't really work at the moment. But yeah, we can't do that. So instead, I am going to do sort of hot laps with these. Each car is given 10 laps around. I've forgotten the blooming track. Damn it! One of the shortened versions of the Yas Marina. I can't remember. Oh, for heaven's sake! I just checked to see what it was, and I've forgotten which version it is. Yeah, this one. You can find it yourself. It's not too hard. Yeah, we're going to lap around this track, and the fastest lap within the 10 laps will be noted down, and then we'll compare the lap times at the end. Now, actually picking a track for this is quite hard. Gone are a lot of these sort of small, shorter tracks. I love Bathurst. It's my favourite track by quite a long way in this game. However, it's not really suitable for C-Class cars, as it's got 2 huge straights, and C-Class are sort of more built for corners, more built for the more technical of circuits. So this is kind of a good compromise. If you're going to build a car now, you have to be able to deal with the straights, as there isn't a huge amount of circuits that don't involve a long straight. This track has a huge sort of front straight, so you've got to bear that in mind now when building a car. However, this track does have a good mix of sort of high-speed corners, slow-speed technical corners, and of course the long straight. So I think this is a good sort of testing ground. It'll probably become my testing ground for cars now. I do quite like this track. However, the curbs are quite nasty. I do have a couple of issues with the replays. I have many issues, but for showing you this, I'm not sure which laps I did within the replay are the fastest ones, as there is no telemetry, and even if I did know what laps, I would have to manually count off the laps because there's no telemetry, no information. So these aren't necessarily the fastest laps with the cars. I just kind of guessed and hoped I found decent, me driving fairly well with these things. Anyway, so onto the car. Yeah, it costs 35,000 credits, 250 horsepower, or near enough, which is fairly respectable for this class of car. You don't really want to put more than that through front-wheel drive, as this is quite understeery as it is. I don't mind the Focus ST. It is not my favourite of cars. It can be a bit of a pain through these corners. It is quite understeery. It's lighter than I expected. I guess it's got weight reduction put on it at 2,500 pounds, but it does feel quite big, and it does feel quite understeery. As a benchmark though, it's not too bad. It was quite a good car to drive. Yeah, for front wheel drive, it really wasn't too bad. Up next, well, we're doing budget racing. Of course, we had to have one of these. This is a Mazda MX-5 Miata, the Generation 1, for us in England. I really like this car. It's small, it's light, okay, it's not got the power. 209 horsepower in this car, and I still managed to have an incident. The curbs are here, as I said, are really nasty. You saw there, I just dipped the wheel over the curb, and it started going sideways, and I couldn't save it, and splattered it into a wall. Damage has been slightly reworked on here, so if you sort of bump a wall like that, you don't take damage. You either have 100% damage or 0 damage. So like that, me bumping into the wall there didn't actually do any damage to the car. So like aero damage and stuff, it won't have slowed it down. If you have a big enough crash, it kind of does terminal damage to the aero part, so there's no kind of gradual gradual damage. So yeah, that's not going to be slowing me down. As I was saying, 209 horsepower, the least powerful of the cars we have here. However, still not too bad. When we're running B-class cars in Forza 4, I would run sort of your small lightweight sports cars would be under 200 horsepower easily. And they'd still be blooming competitive. Okay, it only has 163 torques, not particularly many. However, it weighs under 2,000 pounds. It's a tiny, small, lightweight roadster, and of course, it does handle very, very well. However, like all cars on here that I'm finding, it is quite oversteery. I've tried putting wings on a rear-wheel drive Fiesta ST, and it doesn't seem to make a huge amount of difference. I believe that tuning is going to play a big part in getting these cars to work. All of these cars I haven't tuned at all, just to keep everything like a completely even playing field. This is just with the standard settings that come with the car. So yeah, I haven't played about with the tuning. I may well be doing stuff on that in the future, as I think tuning is going to be quite a lot more important on this game. So let's talk about the monies for this thing. Car itself, 13,000 credits. Pretty much as cheap as you can get a car. I think there's nothing below 12,000 credits. There's a couple of cars at 12,000. Nothing is any cheaper than that though. So yeah, this is a very, very cheap car to buy. Most expensive part on this, tyres. It's got to have racing tyres if you're going to be putting in serious lap times. And the race tyres for this cost 10,000 credits. Quite a lot of money, but very, very important. Absolutely vitally important if you are going for ultimate lap time. Yeah, that's providing you can get it on the car within the PI limits. However, apart from the tyres, I think the price of the upgrades have gone down. They've got rid of the affinity level system that they had in previous games, so there's no free parts anymore. As you increase affinity, you earn more money for winning a race when you're using that manufacturer's car. So the price of parts have actually gone down quite a lot. Race gearbox, 2,500. Weight reduction, full race weight reduction, 2,300. Racing brakes are only 1,950. Suspension, 2,000 again. Now this car does have a turbo. I'd put all the race parts I wanted on it, and I still had room for more PI, so I put a turbo on it, 1,800 for that. Turbo lag is actually a lot bigger thing in this. Awful lot bigger thing in this than it was on Forza 4. If you're in the wrong gear in this car, you will be going absolutely nowhere. It also has sport cams of another 2,000, sport valves, well, 1,900, sorry. The valves are 1,900, and street ignition just to make the PI up at 650. Put all that together, and this car is 38,000 credits. So, a few more thousand than the Focus, however, a much better car, although you have to be careful. You have to be careful with these rear-wheel drive cars, as, yeah, you can have a big incident, as I almost have a big incident with my next car. This is a BMW M3, the E30 version. I think it's E30. I can't remember the blooming codes on the... Oh, never mind. If I'm wrong, everybody will shout at me. It's an M3. In an offensively bright green. It really is a very, very bright green. So, I saw this colour, and it had to be used. There has to be a silly colour. It wouldn't be a FailRace video without something in a silly colour. So yeah, this starts off as a little bit higher PI, starting PI than the MX-5 Miata. However, it costs more money. It costs 19,000 credits. Again, the first thing I wanted to do with it: race tyres, race brakes, race suspension. Naturally, you got to put these things on if you want a car to be competitive through the corners. I wanted to focus a little bit more on sort of speed when it came to this car. It did have a sport weight reduction, however I left PI so I could put racing cams and street fuel on it. This makes it significantly more powerful than the MX-5, 267 horsepower, 200 torques. It is a lot heavier though, 2,750 pounds. But yeah, you're never going to have it as light as an MX-5, and that extra speed will come in handy when you've got long straights to deal with. As far as driving wise goes, this actually feels a bit easier to drive than the MX-5s at times. I think the MX-5 might be a little bit too light, and with the massive curbs, you can have issues bumping over the curbs. So the extra weight can sort of work to this car's advantage. Again, you still have the oversteer. You've still got to be very, very careful. I think, well, it's to do with getting used to a whole new sort of driving mechanics. The way the cars drive is quite a lot different on this game. It's I wouldn't say it's massively, it's sort of familiar, but there are differences, especially with oversteer and understeer. You've got to be a lot smoother with the cars. If you're doing sort of fast movements, you're going to have lots of problems. This car's not bad. I do quite like it. I do quite like the sound of it. It's a pretty good sounding car. It's a silly colour, but yeah, it's not a bad car to drive. But yeah, there are just sort of little things you got to be careful with. This first corner on this track, sorry, is really very tricky. Very hard to get a braking point there. You saw me squirming away trying to get it stopped, and then I clattered a curb again. Tried to take a little bit too much curb, and I think I almost bounced out onto two wheels, and then go for a little bit of a slide because I think I'd ballsed this lap up. Yeah, you've just got to be careful, even with a car like this that's heavier. Okay, I didn't flick it into a wall, but you can still have issues with the curbs. As you saw, I almost spun it. Yeah, not a bad car though overall, just a little bit trickier to drive than that of the MX-5. And our final car today, I want to go for something that has a bit higher starting PI. This car starts off in sort of mid-C class, so you don't have a huge amount of room for upgrades. However, it does cost quite a bit more at 28,000 credits. I quite like the RX-7 actually. It is quite a nice car. It also sounds incredible around here. Next time it goes through the tunnel, I'll shut up so you can hear it. But yeah, the rotary engine in this thing is absolutely incredible through these tunnels with all the echoiness going on. As far as upgrades go, I was going to put racing tyres. However, that puts the PI into B class, so we can't have that. It's running on sport tyres. Race brakes, race suspension, street weight reduction. Couldn't put any more before it goes into B class, and it has a race drivetrain just to make up the rest of the PI. When it comes to building cars, I tend to build a lower car up to a class rather than build something that's already in that class, and sort of like this car here is, well, I say it's about halfway towards the PI limit, but I tend to build up lower class cars as you have more upgrade options. However, this car did perform very well. There's still the oversteery issues with these cars that you've got to be careful with. You've got to be gentle with the throttle and gentle with the turning as well. It's very easy to get some off-power oversteer. Hold on, we're just coming up to the tunnel. You can enjoy the magnificence of the RX-7. Yeah, it does sound quite nice. I think I made a comment sometime about in the first video I did about rotary engines. Rotary engines, I did mechanics, or some mechanics at college. Rotary engines are technically a better form of engine. If we'd spent as much time developing rotary engines as we did with sort of normal internal combustion engines, we would all be using rotary. However, only Mazda, I don't know if anybody else, some other Japanese manufacturers might have toyed with it, but they just haven't been developed enough, and they are not the most reliable of engines. I could explain why, but I don't think you want an entire sort of lecture on mechanics of them. But yeah, they are great engines, they sound great, and they sound especially good on this game. The sounds are really very impressive on here. They really are very cool. But yeah, they're not the most reliable of engines in real life. However, on here, of course, that's not a problem. And the other slight niggles with this car, it doesn't have the huge turbo lag of the MX-5, but again, you've still got to make sure you have it in the right gear at the right time, because yeah, otherwise you're going to be going nowhere. Anyway, all four cars, got around the track without too many issues. I only crashed one. Yeah, I spun another one, but yeah, only crashed one of them. So the focus is lap time. Sort of the benchmark time was a 1:11.211. Yeah, it's kind of a bit hard to judge if that's any good or not, but you know, it was fairly well up on the leaderboards, so I was fairly happy with that. The RX-7 did a 1:10.160. However, I was going considerably quicker on the final lap. I think it was about 4/10 up when I binned it and spun it round later, sort of on the second to last corner. No, the final corner, sorry. I binned it, and yeah, I screwed that lap up. So that could go a little bit quicker than that. It was going a bit quicker than that, but I messed it up. Still, fairly respectable time. Still over a second quicker than the Focus. BMW did a 1:10.041. Again, not too bad a lap time from that car. It's a little bit more difficult. It wasn't really designed for the sort of tight technical sections. If the track was a lot more straights in it, I think it would have done significantly better. Whereas the MX-5 did a lap time of 1:09.708. Very quick lap time from the MX-5. When I filmed this, when I did this, it was 18th in the world on the on the leaderboards for this track. Very quick car. I did take it online, did some racing, and so far it's unbeaten, and nobody's got within 10 seconds of it in an online lobby. It is a very quick car. It is possible to make mistakes, and though you've got to be careful with the curbs. They really are very dangerous in these cars. They will really screw you up if you put a wheel over the edge of them. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun. All of these cars are great to drive. The Focus is a little bit understeery, but once you get used to it, all of these cars are very, very good to drive, and they all cost under 40,000 credits, which really isn't too much money. So if you want to go do some C-Class racing, I highly recommend it. It doesn't cost very much to get a very competitive car, as it turns out, and it really is very good fun. You've just got to watch out for those curbs. I'm going to say this many times in the upcoming weeks, I think, as yeah, they really do cause some problems. However, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you have challenges you would like to see us do, then you can leave them in the comment section. We are severely limited at the moment as to what we can do with the dodgy replays and the lack of ability to save online races. However, I can still do some single player stuff. Unfortunately, there's going to be less of the actual sort of either me racing against Daniel or me racing against other people, and it's more going to come down to actual lap times. For now, hopefully, fingers crossed in the future, we can get some better replays, and we can get online replays and all of that. However, that is it for today. So until next time, goodbye.